So, John, you're the son of a former butcher and a meat processing business owner. So that's a really interesting background for a vegan cookbook author. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to a plant-based lifestyle?
Sure. You know, everywhere I travel, and I know it's the same for you guys, you get the same question: when did you decide to go vegan or vegetarian? And we all have that moment, that click over in our brain that we can instantly identify. But what I found is when you ponder that question a little further, it really does become a fascinating question with a fascinating answer, and one that probably goes back a lot further than what any of us realize. And for me, you know, growing up, my dad was a butcher. He owned a meat processing business that was particularly busy during deer hunting season. I come from western Pennsylvania, where it is always some kind of hunting season. So we are encompassed in the meat eating and hunting culture. You know, always a hunting season. I always have to, when I'm going out for a walk in the woods, ask my dad, should I wear orange so someone does not accidentally shoot me? You know. So during hunting season, deer hunting season, which comes right after Thanksgiving, you know, Dad would have this business, and I, at ages 7, 8, 9, 10, tried my hand at each of the jobs in this business. So I tried skinning the meat and cutting the meat and making the sausage, and you know. But when you're at about nose level with the table, those jobs don't really go so well. But I really didn't have the vocabulary or the understanding to really even identify why I was feeling that this just was not quite right for me. And eventually I was relegated to the front desk, where when the hunters would come in, I would write down the instructions of what they wanted done with their deer. And so it's almost poetic today. That was my first official paid writing gig. I think Dad paid me about $2 or $3 an hour, and now I've come full circle writing vegan cookbooks. So you know, it's sort of an interesting circle or evolution there. But what it gave me is such an interesting and fascinating perspective on the meat-eating culture and the hunting culture that has really informed me as a vegan cookbook author today. And so I'll always be grateful for that. It's all about ease for me. And that's really helped me connect to the meat-eating world also with these books, because people are starting to look at my books and think, okay, maybe this isn't so strange. This, you know, they'll say to me, well, this doesn't even look like a vegan recipe. I'm like, well, what's it supposed to look like? You know, it's just a delicious recipe for whatever it is. It's mac and cheese. You know, it just doesn't contain any dairy or animal products.
You mentioned that some of your first cookbooks, you know, were conventional cookbooks that, you know, contained ingredients, meat ingredients. So what has been your colleagues in the foodie world reaction to your coming out?
Well, it was one of those very interesting cases of when my personal life took that dramatic and huge change. My career had to come with me. And I have to say, everyone has been super supportive. And again, I'm glad I had that background doing those cookbooks and sort of understanding the food world and the cookbook world from that perspective, because again, that has really helped inform me in writing my own vegan cookbooks and really reaching across the aisle. You know, I choose to lead by example. I write cookbooks that I call parties in a book that everyone is invited to. So I like to reach back across the aisle to those meat eaters, to those hunters, and say, you're going to like my food. It might just be for one meal, but you're going to love it. And I think that message has resonated, and people sort of like that, because I don't come across as preachy or judgmental. I choose to lead by example. And I think when, you know, the people who are working among all of us in the world of animals and health and activism, when, you know, we all know them, those who are a little too preachy and a little too judgmental, and I think they tend to often do more damage to the work that the rest of us are doing than anyone else. You know, it's just like a punch to the gut, and I'm just like, stop, you know? Stop.
And so, you know, you've said that in interviews and speeches that you write cookbooks not because you want to be a big celebrity chef, but for to see your name on the book cover. So can you tell us why, you know, you decided that cookbooks would be your contribution to the world of activism?
Sure. Everywhere I go, they try to introduce me as a chef or as a celebrity chef, and I'm like, I'm not a trained chef. I am not. I'm just an everyday guy on the street who loves delicious food, absolutely. But the real reason I write my cookbooks is because on some level I want those animals on those factory farms who are in those putrid cages and on those hideous slaughter floors to know that I and all of you are right there in those cages with them and in those pens with them in those dark, cold, hideous warehouses with them with our arms wrapped around them, and we are whispering in their ear, you are not alone and we love you. And that's, that is why I write these books. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about those animals, that I'm not thinking about being right in those cages with them and just sending them that amazing energy and that love. And, and by doing that, really, again, leading by example, which all of you do. And that's why I love the work that you're all doing here at the PCRM. I call this tasty activism. Because I think, a great way to get to someone's heart is through their stomach. And so I'm trying to do my best in doing that.
And have you heard from many people who've given credit to your books for helping them to make that transition?
I do hear from a lot of people, and even if they have not made the full transition, they write to me and tell me how the books have at least made them a little more aware of where their food comes from and what's going on, in these factory farms. And I always find it fascinating when people come up to me and they'll say, I don't even want to know what's going on in these factory farms because if I did, I would not eat the, And again, we've all heard this. And I think the fact that you're already saying that to me, you already know what's going on in these factory farms. But again, we have to sort of stop and pause and not be judgmental with these people and sort of gently take them by the hand and say, well, let's start with some delicious food and we'll progress from there. Because I think a lot of times they eventually come around.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you've contributed cookbooks that kind of are on topics that other cookbook authors haven't done before, like vegan cocktails and
alcohol,
and grilling.
Tipsy vegans.
So, why did you decide that the next cookbook needed to be a vegan cheese cookbook?
Well, first of all, you have to know, I come from one of the oldest brewing families in the country. My great-great-grandfather started our family brewery back in Pennsylvania in the 1870s. So the love of all things tipsy literally flows through my veins. And I don't think I'm alone, in the vegan world or any other world where that's concerned. And my first big national cookbook before going vegan was the Ultimate Beer Lovers Cookbook. And so when it came time to do my first vegan cookbook, we talked about a lot of different topics that I could cover, and it was like, this is the no-brainer, because there hadn't really been one done yet. And from the very beginning, my goal has been to smash through all these ridiculous stereotypes that we are boring and we eat blah, tasteless food. I think some of our non-vegetarian and non-vegan friends out there think we still eat something akin to hummus smeared on cardboard using weird ingredients from, I don't know, some obscure health food store on Mars. That will never be the case with me. My cookbooks are all about having fun, all about using easy ingredients, and again, smashing through those barriers. So that was with the Tipsy Vegan. And then, it came time to do book number 2, and it was like, really, there's no vegan grilling cookbook out there? I could not believe it. There were vegetarian ones, but there was not a comprehensive grilling cookbook and handbook. So that's why I decided to take on the grill and really reclaim the grill for vegans. And once that was done, cheese was the next logical step. And I've had so much fun with this book. It's only been out 2 months now. Not even 2 months. It came out at the beginning of this month. I launched it here in DC. I emceed DC Veg Fest. We did a book party launch at Sticky Fingers, which was really fantastic. So it's been great so far.
And so what do people usually have to say about the topic of vegan cheese?
They want to know what it tastes like. What does it taste like? Is it good? Because we all know there is a lot of horrible vegan cheese out there. But there's also a lot of really horrible dairy cheese out there. And I can only speak for my recipe. Certainly in preparation for this book, I did a lot of research. I researched a lot of vegan cheese out there, as well as a lot of dairy cheese. I did not try them, though. Before I went vegan, I ate a lot of cheese. You know, when I was still in a height chair, my favorite meal was little chunks of cheese and green olives chopped up. My grandmother was horrified that my mother would serve me this in the height chair, but that's what I loved. So, and it just goes to show how kids are raised in a certain way. But that really has been the main question. My recipes, you know, they're the best that they can be. They're simple because, again, a lot of these vegan cheese recipes that at least I've come across, you practically need a chemistry degree to figure out how to make them, if you can even pronounce the ingredients in them. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Something has to change. So mine can really be simplified down to 4 words: mix, blend, set, and eat. At its simplest. Simple ingredients, simple instructions. Because I want you to eat as soon as possible.
So how much were you trying to kind of like imitate real cheese? Like how authentic were you trying to be when it came to having a recipe for like this kind of fancy French cheese or like Italian cheese? Or...
Well, I don't think that you should really look at it as imitating it. It's a matter of creating a new cheddar, a new Swiss, a new mozzarella. They taste, we all know what cheddar tastes like. But even in the dairy world, different cheddars taste differently. So, you know, I think for a long time, we vegans have had to make excuses. In fact, when I started working on this book, there was talk of, well, how are you going to spell the word cheese? And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, it's not cheese. And I'm like, yes, it is. Well, maybe you should spell it with a Z or a Z-E. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. I do not need to make excuses or try to trick people into thinking this is anything other than cheese. It may be the case in other vegan cookbooks or other cookbooks, not in mine. This is cheese. So I explain it this way. Think of the cheese recipes in this book as the John Schlimm brand of cheddar and Swiss and mozzarella and brie and the rest. They are cheese. And so I don't feel like we have to think we're imitating anything. You know, maybe the dairy world needs to start imitating us, right? You know, I come from a place, and maybe some of you do as well, where you'll see bumper stickers, proud to be parent of a new hunter. You know, and you see this little kid, you know, trudging off into the woods with a rifle or whatever. You know, the kids still get off of school the first day of deer season where I'm from. And, you know, when I was little, I went shopping with my mom on those days. I went holiday shopping. I preferred to go hunting for bargains, not my furry little pals in the woods while my classmates armed up. So I'm always fascinated at home. But what's really fascinating also is, in addition to people coming up and telling me at home that they're reducing the amount of meat they're eating, they're also telling me that when they are eating meat, they're going to our local farmers again. So at the very least, it's again a step in the right direction. And I try to be as supportive of that. I don't like that at the end of the day those animals have to be killed, but it's still a step in the right direction for those people health-wise. At least they're eating a little bit healthier and they're not getting the garbage that is being offered to them in grocery stores. And so I just keep encouraging them, well, okay, now try it one day a week without the meat from anywhere. And they're open to that, and that's been so surprising and so inspiring to me. And even my dad, that former butcher, a few months ago, he came to me and he said, John, you know all those veggie burgers you're always eating? He said, would you mind if I tried one? So I just smiled and led him to the kitchen. I don't think this means he's going vegan or vegetarian overnight, but I think it's a step in the right direction. You know, one small step for man, one giant leap for veganism, as it were. Yeah, one of the things that I really did not expect when doing the Cheesy Vegan is that I am hearing from parents all over the place who are telling me that their kids are getting in on the Cheesy Vegan action. And because the recipes to make the cheese are so easy, the kids are loving making them. And you know, why wouldn't they? You know, kids love ooey gooey things that taste good in the end. They can make, you know, not too big of a mess, but they can make a mess if they want. But they're simple that kids can really enjoy these recipes and make them and then really just love eating them. And so that's been something that I did not expect, but I'm so excited about that.
Also, on the topic of learning, education, so you're taking the Cheesy Vegan to universities this semester?
Well, the Cheesy Vegan is going to school this semester, which I am so excited about because part of my background is in education. And there is a university about an hour from where I live. It's the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford, so it's a branch campus of Pitt. And they have a really incredible hospitality management program which started there a few years ago. And I taught at the university for a few years in their public relations and communications department. And so when this book came out, the hospitality department contacted me and asked if they could do some sort of event with me. And so the Cheesy Vegan has been incorporated into the curriculum for 3 of those hospitality classes. And those students are using the book to plan a tasting event at the end of this semester where they will serve dishes out of the book. You know, and what's great, none of these students as of yet are vegan and vegetarian, so it's a new audience. They're learning about what it means to be vegan. They're learning about the fact that when they go out in the real world in hospitality, they're going to meet people like all of us, as well as others with a variety of different lifestyles who they're going to have to certainly be open to and cater to and all of that. So it's been such a great experience, and these kids are having so much fun. They're going to, you know, they're doing every aspect of this event. They are planning all the logistics, they're going to be making the food. You know, I've met with them a couple times just to sort of mentor a little bit, but I've really sort of stepped back and said, all I want to do is show up and have a good time because I know it's going to be fantastic and it's going to be really exciting. And certainly now, pairings and tastings are the hottest way to entertain. So at the end of the book, I do a comprehensive chart using each of the cheeses, the homemade vegan cheeses, and I tell you which white and red wines are best to pair with them, which beer, which cocktail. So for example, cheddar cheese, if you want a white wine, a Chardonnay or a Pinot Grigio works really well. A red wine, a Merlot works well with it. Beer, a really great classic lager. I like to serve an amber lager. For a cocktail, a great gin martini. But if you want to use vodka, go right ahead. But I do that for each of the cheeses, so it's really easy for someone to entertain that way. Yeah, I even suggest in the back that you could do a fun vegan cheese of the month club with your friends, and so I outline just suggestions where each of your friends can pick a different month and a different cheese, and then host a little tasting with that cheese at your home or something like that, which can be fun. So,
well, I saw on your website that you did a commencement address last year. Where was that, and what was your message?
That was so exciting for me, especially as a vegan cookbook author, to be invited to deliver a commencement address. And that was actually at the university that is currently using now the Cheesy Vegan as in their course curriculum for the hospitality management program. It was it was exciting. I got to talk a lot about compassion. That was really the main theme running through the speech about how important it is to connect with our living beings, all of our fellow living beings on so many different levels. But it was an amazing moment for me, and one that I will always carry with me. And if you get a chance to see it, please go to my website, johnschlimm.com, and it's right on top. You can watch the speech.
Yeah, that's probably not a topic that college students hear very much at their commencement addresses. That's really cool.
Yeah, and what's great is afterwards they're like, you got a standing ovation. And I'm like, I did? I don't even remember it. I'm like, the one time in my life I get a standing ovation, and I didn't even remember it. But that meant a lot to me as well, because again, it means this is a message that resonates.